This program is sponsored by Sue Lundquist.
Welcome to the Gratitude Cafe, positive radio to feed your soul. Your dynamic host and founder, Sue Lundquist, will bring you her own intuitive talents and gifts for co-creating, healing, and teaching. Her show, The Gratitude Cafe, positive radio to feed your soul, is focused on bringing you to a higher place each week where you can leave the hustle of life at the door. So pull up a chair and join us for the Gratitude Cafe, positive radio to feed your soul.
Your cheerleader! Yay! Oh my goodness. Welcome you guys. Sue Lundquist here with the Gratitude Cafe. We are live from the Pacific Northwest live radio here. Actually, we have a caller from the UK, but I'm going to get to that beautiful little soul in just a minute. You might hear her rustling around a little bit. But we've got Kitty Waters on the phone, and we are going to have an incredible hour full of inspiration, joy, love. We're going to talk about Dharma. We're going to talk about truth and reality, and we're going to educate you. And of course, just like any other show, it's a new perspective, new ideas, new thoughts, a new you. It's still you, but we're just revising it just a bit. You know, you 2.0. So let's find yourself. Let's regain that personal power. What does your purpose look like? Well, you guys have heard me talk about my curriculum and the stuff that I teach. Of course, I'm extremely passionate about showing you how to reclaim yourself and your personal power, helping you to, as you go through life and shedding those old beliefs and those old fears and relationships, personal, business, all of that. And those experiences are attached to old habits that you will need self-regulating tools to help you sustain all that self-love, self-care, and you're going to get exactly that. So you can work with me one-on-one. Of course, you can go on my website to SueLundquist.com, letter C, the number 2, the letter C, for the Craziness to Clarity Template for Transformation and the Essence of You program. That is my curriculum. It has changed hundreds of people's lives, including myself. I walk the talk daily, hourly, minute by minute. Every conversation, quite honestly, is an initiation for me to show up bigger and better. And, you know, a better self, more powerful, more effective, more clear, and to shine that example for all of you as well. I'm not perfect, and I will make mistakes, and we are all making mistakes and learning as we go. But if you are questioning your purpose, if you got to spin out, burnout, lack of desire, anxiety, all of that, go on to SueLundquist.com and go to the C to C, or, you know, clarity to, or craziness clarity template for transformation. Or of course, reach out to me and we'll look at one-on-one coaching. If I'm not the right match, we'll find you somebody who is. All right. We are jumping into today's call. We're not taking phone calls today. Kitty and I are going to inspire you. We're going to motivate you. And I'm going to give you the formal introduction like you guys have heard me do many times before. And then I'm going to bring her on, because wait until you hear this beautiful woman talk and inspire. Kitty is an inspirational, motivational speaker, coach, consultant, and mentor. She is the British founder of ATL Europe Group. ATL is a global recognized nonprofit and peer group for people doing transformational work. Kitty's life has gone full circle after having a nervous breakdown in her 20s, suffering from depression, drug and alcohol abuse. And like all of us, we have dissatisfaction, disconnection from life that led her down a personal development route. Thank God for that. And we've got her right here on the Gratitude Cafe. Welcome, Miss Kitty. Let's introduce you, love.
Hello, darling. So lovely to be with you.
Oh, baby, I just want to hear you talk. It gives me goosebumps.
I'm British, yes.
Oh, I absolutely love it. So I can go ahead and keep continuing with the formal introduction, but you know what? As my audience knows, we want to get to know you. So let's jump in and let's talk about that full circle moment and where it got to you, because you're walking your talk every day, just like myself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well,
you
so
bet,
lovely. Love. Well, it's just amazing to be here, first of all. I'm excited about the conversation that we are going to have. But yes, I've definitely taken my life from nervous breakdown, chronic depression, and actually we had a huge history of depression in the female side of my family. It ran down generation after generation after generation. And at the age of 21, it kind of came to fruition with myself, and I actually had a nervous breakdown. And I think at 21, you don't really have any idea what's going on, and I didn't really understand why this had all happened to me. And British culture is quite stiff upper lip, darling, and you don't talk about you don't really talk about your emotions, and you don't talk about your feelings.
Vulnerability, what's that?
Absolutely. And British families can be incredibly tight, actually, and not we don't cry. I didn't see anybody cry in my family. My dad didn't cry, my mum didn't cry. Crying was actually, like, I viewed it as weak. And
wow.
And so at 21, I actually had an affair with a boss. Very innocent now when I look back on it, but I didn't like myself for what I was doing. And of course, I kept all of those emotions inside, and they just went round and round and round, and to the point where I cracked. Yeah, and so,
Go ahead, love. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It was just, I think it's important for people to know this story, because it's really important for people to understand that you can go from that dark depth and you can transform things, and you can turn things around. Like for me, at 21, I had a nervous breakdown, and I still didn't really understand what was happening. So I, for the next 8 years of my life, I suffered with depression. I used alcohol as a way of coping. It was my shut off. It was my escape. And then that progressed into cocaine. I worked in the City of London, which is the financial centre, and it's kind of work hard, play hard mentality. And I definitely was in that mentality, and I was, very disconnected and very, very stuck, actually, very unhappy outwardly. I was earning good money. I had a good job. In theory, I should have been happy, but actually internally, I was dying inside. And I didn't know who to talk to or what to do. And so I kind of just accepted it, that it was my lot. And then at the age of 28, I made a big discovery, which was that we had this huge family history, because no one had really told me. At the age of 28, I got a phone call at work from my dad to say my mother had gone missing. And she had been suffering herself with very bad depression. And she had supposedly gone to a friend's house, but she'd never arrived. And so my dad phoned me and he said, "Your mum's gone missing. Can you come home?" And of course, my first thought was, what the hell were you doing letting her out the house? She wasn't well.
Yes.
And then luckily for me, my boyfriend at the time was a paramedic. So I went home, I picked up my boyfriend who was on his day off, and I picked up my sister, and I drove back to my parents' house, which was about an hour outside of the City of London. And in my living room was a policeman, and he said to me, "Sue, he was clutching a suicide note, and he said to me, has your mum ever tried to do anything like this before?" And I said no, and at that point my dad said yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
I got goosebumps all over my body. It's just lit up.
And that was when I found out that we had this. My dad proceeded to tell me that, and the policeman, that mum had suffered with quite bad depression. She'd had postnatal depression. Her mother had suffered with postnatal depression. As far as we know, there was lots of depression in the family, and all this stuff came tumbling out. And my kind of world shattered in that instant. But there was nothing I could do about it all, because obviously my first primary concern was the fact that my mother had gone missing. So I do remember just going, right, I can't deal with this now, but I have to go and look for her. So my sister, my boyfriend and we went to back of my parents' house. And at the back of my parents' house is a big expanse of woods. You've got acres and acres of woods one way and acres of woods the other. And I remember just thinking, well, where do we go? How are we supposed to find her? We have no idea where she is. And I remember my sister saying, "Where do we go? Which way?" And suddenly I got a voice in my head saying, "Turn right." And I remember my sister saying, "Where do we go?" And I said, "We need to turn right." And she said, "How do you know?" And I just said, "I don't know. Somebody's telling me to turn right." And it was quite an incredible experience, because we then proceeded to be guided to where my mum was. and she had overdosed, and she, luckily for us, she had kind of slumped on top of herself, but she was okay. She hadn't gone into the water, and so I remember running for the ambulance, and I remember my boyfriend obviously looking after her. But I remember kind of in that moment thinking, oh, I know I've got to change my ways. I know I'm not living my life the way I need to. Please look after my mum, and I promise you I'll kind of, change. Just,
isn't it
look after
amazing
her.
what I know, but look at, I mean, and it's like when we hit a wall, then we change. It's like, can we be the example to so many people and say, you know what, we're here to give you the education now, so when you don't have to hit that wall. But there's so much value to, and I disclaimer here, audience, in hitting the wall, because there's no other place for you to go except for up or expansion when you choose to do that.
And that was what exactly happened with me.
Yeah.
This voice in my head, luckily for me, my mum was okay. She got counselling. She hadn't, she was okay. We kind of got her the help she needed. But the experience that I had with a voice in my head guiding me towards, where my mum was a huge wake-up call, massive wake-up call for me. And like we said, we don't want people to have to get to the point where they have these big wake-up calls or this big kind of shake-ups. But in my case, it was a big wake-up. I started to look to educate myself, because I was like, how could this happen? How do you get a voice in your head? And I'd always thought there was kind of more to life than we could see, but this experience really woke me up, and I just started to really buckle down and educate myself.
I see. I love that. And following your inner guidance and honing in and then discerning what messages are coming through. So audience, I want to remind all of you who we're talking to. We're talking to Kitty Waters. Kitty has 20 years background in business, having built departments and companies from scratch. She was a shareholder in the James Conn recruiting business, the Dragon's Den. You guys have heard that, which sold for $52 million in 2015. She's also fully trained Reiki master and an NLP practitioner. We're getting to know her backstory. And also, Kitty is in the process of launching Kitty Talks, a social enterprise whose mission is to inspire a generation of change makers to follow their passion and their purpose and make a difference in the planet. She's doing that right now. She has a podcast currently at Kitty Waters, Kitty_Talks. All that stuff is on my website and Facebook, so you guys can get a hold of her there as well. I want to jump into I want to back up, because I think it's important that we talk to the audience about effective communication when we feel that and I love that you use your family, because we have this in family, we have it in business. I've personally witnessed, not being able to be vulnerable or not being able to have open communication, effective communicate, just being able to talk and be vulnerable, to be sad and to be happy or to be depressed or whatever that is, to have somebody in your life to have that space to have that. And I think it's important that the audience hears us talking about that, so they have the permission to do that. And if you don't have somebody in your life currently that you can, find that person, because we don't want you to hit that wall. What would you say to that, Kitty?
Yeah, I think for me, it never been talked about, so when I kind of was having problems and I didn't feel very connected to life, I didn't really know who to go and talk to. I didn't know that wasn't correct. And I absolutely concur with what you're saying. If you don't feel right, if life doesn't feel joyful, if you don't feel connected, it's definitely a sign and a signal that you need to change something and find somebody to talk to. I think I'm happy to say that times have changed. I think things are much more open now.
Yeah.
I like to think so.
Well, yes, of course it is. Look how you're showing up to the world, love. Thank you.
Well, I think it's so important to be totally truthful and open and honest about our stories. And, I suffered with depression for about 10 years, but I'm very pleased to say that I actually don't suffer anymore. And I haven't suffered for the last 10 years. So in my case, I managed to completely dissipate what I was experiencing. And a lot of that was through the education that I did. And a lot of it is what I do in my Dharma program now. So I have a Do Your Dharma program, which is all about getting people onto the correct path in life. And I think similarly to your work, Sue, you know, when we uncover our purpose, when we get on what the Dharmic texts talk about, the right path of action, I've seen miraculous things happen where people can come in depressed, anxious, with CFS, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And once they get really channeled in the correct direction and they get insights into their purpose and what path they should be on, I see a lot of these things naturally clear themselves up, which is just incredible. So never give up hope is what I would say to anybody listening who is suffering with anxiety and depression. You know, find somebody you resonate with, find somebody that you like the sound of, that you think can serve you, and, you know, make a connection with those individuals.
Yes, for sure. And I love that you even brought it up, because, and I know when I was in my journey and when you're in the fight or flight state, the last thing, and I didn't know, let me back up a little bit. So I didn't know what the true feeling of love meant for myself. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have, it's like if you haven't seen the color green, your brain doesn't know what the color is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the experience yet, you don't, you hadn't had the experience of self-love or self-confidence prior to that, trying to find that and to even ask the right questions can be quite daunting and difficult, because, you know, you're in spin out. So do that. What Kitty was talking about, that's a really good sign. If you don't feel love, if you don't feel joy, if you don't feel a connection or connected, reach out to somebody, find somebody in your area, or Kitty or myself, or somebody else that can help you get reconnected. I want to back up and talk about the definition of Dharma to make sure that people understand the definition of Dharma. I mean, obviously it's an inherent nature of reality, an aspect of truth and reality. I would like to hear your definition and how you relate it to your work.
Absolutely. Well, Dharma actually is used in about 18 different Indian languages.
Yes.
So obviously in the Buddhist language, it means the teachings of Buddha. But within the Vedic text, which is the term that I refer to, it means the right path of action. So the simplest way to describe the Vedas would be like the Indian equivalent of the Bible. And the Vedic texts were information that was passed down to the upper echelons of society, so kings and queens, sages, you know, they all understood about Dharma, and they all understood about the flow of life. But for mere minions, or for the people in the West, you know, this isn't really a topic that we know or we understand. So one of my goals in life is to really simplify and demystify the subject of Dharma for people, because actually there's so much wisdom that we can use in the West to live fulfilling lives. Now, when you do your Dharma, you are happier, healthier, you live longer, and you have a deep sense of unshakable inner peace. And what the Vedic texts talk about is it's the right path of action for the individual and for humanity at the same time.
Now, audience, I want to make sure you guys got that. So do your Dharma. I want you to repeat that. So if you are doing your Dharma, if you're I'm going to say in my language, living your truth, and you're on your right path, like you were saying, the flow in life, and you help people to get on that right path, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. So essentially, Dharma is not something you can see, it's something you feel.
Yes.
So what I mean by that, if you think about, if you love somebody, you feel that love. If you don't necessarily see it, but you feel it. Now, for me, Dharma is something you experience and you feel. So when you're in alignment with your Dharma, you feel good. You feel happy, you feel healthy, you know, literally you have more life force energy running through you. You feel connected and you have this deep sense of meaning. And that can elude a lot of people. And it eluded me for years and years and years. So yes, my work is in demystifying this subject, making it very, very simple, and actually giving people really simple steps of how they can not only get on the correct path, but stay on the right path.
Audience, I love that. I love that. You can go to www.kittytalks.com to find out more information, of course. Let's jump into give us some pearls of wisdom. What's coming up for you today? What can we share with the audience, love?
Well, I'm going to give you some examples because I always think stories are the best way to describe this. Yes. So the first job that I ever got, I was working in a pub, and I got back from traveling, and I kind of I was probably maybe even 18, 19, and I was working in a pub, and I thought, I've got to get a bit of a proper job. So I listened to that inner voice that said, you need to get a proper job. And I remember talking to my best friend at the time, and she babysat for a woman that owned a company that happened to be opposite the pub. And she said, she's looking for somebody to work for her. She has a recruitment company. It's all about talking. You're pretty good at talking. Why don't you go and have a chat with her? And that was literally it, Sue. And so I walked across one lunchtime. I went across the road. I had a conversation with this lady. I came back and I had a proper job. Now, I tell you that. I
love that it's right across the street. I mean, it's like right there. There's a metaphor there, right? We know this.
Absolutely. So I tell you that story because it was like, I came home one day and I was like, I've got a job. And my parents were like, oh my God, how did you do that? And I kind of thought to myself, that was really easy. I didn't really do anything apart from follow what was exciting to me. And this job was exciting to me. So I'd give it 6 months. I worked there 6 months and I was starting not to enjoy it anymore. I was desperate to be promoted. And I'm not very good at administration. I'm very good at talking. I'm not very good at admin. And I'd forgotten to post a letter. And they'd actually given me a verbal warning at this company because I'd forgotten to post a letter. And in my sort of innocence and my youth, I was really put out that they had given me this warning because I thought I'm not very happy about that, and I really want to be promoted. And so I remember sharing with another friend of mine that I wanted to get another job, or I thought I might as well get another job. And she told me she worked in advertising in a newspaper. She told me about one of her clients who was in London, who were another recruitment business who sounded amazing, and they were having a graduate training day and I should go. And the next thing I know, I'd gone to this graduate training day and there were 30 people going for 4 jobs, but because I had experience, I got the job. Now, again, I share these examples because these were points in my life where my life flowed. And what Dharma talks about is there's a very simple, it's a simple analogy, it's a simple formula for Dharma. So when we do our Dharma, we are following what is passionate to us, for us, and we're using our unique gifts and talents in service to others. And that is the path of Dharma. So if you see in those 2 examples, I was listening to my inner voice. I was just following this chain of excitement through my life. And consequently, things were flowing really beautiful. Now, when I got out of alignment with Dharma was when I wasn't very happy in that business and they gave me the verbal warning. And instead of staying in the business and being miserable and kind of being too scared to leave, I did something about it. Now, I share these stories because the purpose of you guys understanding the concept of Dharma is so you can recognize when you're in or out of alignment with it. So when your life is flowing, when you have meaning, when you have purpose, when you're enjoying yourself, you're probably in alignment. Now, what tends to happen is we tend to outgrow a relationship or we outgrow a job, but we tend to get stuck in the fear. We tend to go, oh no, I'm too old to move jobs, or you start to tell yourself stories. Your mind will get in the way and say, you can't leave your job because of this X, Y, Z. Now, the purpose of life is to evolve and grow. And when we get to points where we're not evolving or growing, I believe that we fall out of this flow of life, the Dharma. So what I do with people is just show them how to consistently stay in flow with their evolution and with the path of Dharma. And of course, the benefits to doing this is you're in alignment really with your higher purpose, and you're in alignment with your passions, and you're in alignment with your excitement, and you're in alignment with life because you're evolving and growing. So it's a very rewarding journey. And I think if you were to say to most people, like, how do you get on your spiritual path? It's a difficult one, but actually through the Dharmic texts, we have proven formulas that can work.
I'm hooked on every word in the conversation. And I love that you teach people to stay in the flow and to also, and I love the stories of action too, because if you're not happy, and I so agree with you, so many people, including myself, we fall into that spin out of fear and we allow ourselves to go into contraction or diminish ourselves. And I take full responsibility for that. And I say that, audience, to you, that take the accountability and take responsibility for your own actions and behavior. And as simple as that is for me to say, it is not always the action to change, because you've got fear, you've got doubt. There's so many variables that your nervous system and your mind is going to play games with you, thinking that you're not worthy. All that beautiful stuff comes up, and you know, your nervous system kept you safe for a while, but it just doesn't serve you anymore. So if you can find somebody to help you with that evolving and growing, and like Kitty's talking about, she consistently helps you stay in that growth, and helps you stay in that passion and that excitement, which I love. Will you, gratitude, because obviously that's a big component in my life, and staying above the line and having gratitude. But before we have that conversation, I want to remind the audience, seriously, taking accountability and responsibility for your actions and not being in the victim role. And I think that's so important because, you know, it starts with awareness. That's part of my curriculum, and everything starts in awareness. And if your head's in the sand, that's not me judging you, and nor would Kitty. It's just you're not ready to see that aspect of yourself yet. But where I'm saying to the audience right now, you guys, really look at your life. And if it's not in flow, if you're not excited, take action, be accountable, be responsible, because you are the only one that's going to be able to do that. So let's go back to, right, Kitty? I mean,
Absolutely,
it's a big hurdle, though. It can be very scary, and the nervous system and the brain and all those triggers gets involved too.
Yeah, well, I suppose it means us, you know, if we don't like how our life looks, it can be quite confronting. But actually, you're taking your power back, because, like you said, Sue, you know, once you take responsibility for your life, you can do something about it. You know, while you're hiding in it's everybody else's fault, you don't have any power. And, you know, with this is the Leo Aquarius age, it's all about people waking up to their personal sovereignty and understanding and reclaiming their power. And that's definitely, I know your role in life, Sue, is to support other people in that. And it's definitely one of mine.
I want the audience to hear that, because, you know, we've got, and I know when I was in spin out and I'm like, take my power back. What do you mean? I feel I'm not being a victim. You know, that little attitude that you get, well, I'm not a victim. What do you mean? When you're in denial of being a victim and you're in that consistent spin out. So my lovely audience, we love you. What we're saying here is truly, truly take your power back. You do not need to be doing what other people think you should be doing, or their aspects of themselves, you know, the projection and all that other language we can get into. But seriously, it is you taking your power back. That means saying, whoa, wait a minute. Am I in love? Am I in joy? Do I feel connected, like Kitty was talking about earlier? And if you don't, then let's look at getting your Dharma, right? Love, joy, passion.
Absolutely. And it's such a worthwhile journey, because I have really seen in my own life and obviously in my community, because I have a community of people doing their Dharma. We've had over 80 people go through the program now. But I just see magic and miracles all the time. Like when you get in alignment with your highest excitement, with your passion, with your love, with your joy, with your gratitude, with your happiness, it's a very good place to be. And consequently, you're almost like what you put out in the world is what comes back. And in my own case, like I now run an organization called The Network, which is a global organization for transformational leaders. And I had the idea for that organization about 7 years ago. And it was everything I was passionate about. You know, it was personal development, it was community growth, it was about changing the world. And of course, now what I realize is I was going after my Dharma. When I first heard about the organization, was connected to an American organization. And when I first heard about it, it was like a light bulb kind of went off in my head. And it was like, oh my goodness, I want to do that. Now, for some reason, and I think it was my soul speaking, I didn't let I didn't let the doubts kick in. I kind of just went for it, and I proceeded to tell people I was going to run this organization, tell people I was going to bring it over from the States. I wrote a business plan. I went to a 3-day-a-week job so I could even set it up. And crazy stuff happens when we commit to what we want to happen.
Yeah. I love it.
And so I spent six to 9 months telling people what I was going to do and sharing it with whoever would listen. And then I do believe the universe looks for openings for people who will do its work. And my now partner in the organization, and I've been running this organization now for 7 years, she was a lady that I'd connected with, and she was a speaker, and I had helped her come to the UK, and she's American. She was coming to the UK to do an event, and I'd just been very supportive with her, and I'd helped her. And then in between time, I'd come up with this idea to run this organization. Now, I hadn't told her this. She didn't know. But 9 months later, out of the blue, I got an email from her basically asking if I'd like to get involved in setting up this organization in Europe.
Of course.
Like, I've got goosebumps now, because every time I tell it, like, if it hadn't happened to me, I would not have believed it, Sue. Like, honestly. But it's testament, I believe, in what happens when we have the courage to go after what is our highest excitement, what it is that we truly are passionate about. We're in alignment with our higher selves, you know, and we do get supported. And I think it's important to have a community around you, because I think that, you know, really helps support you. And that's what we do in our community. But yeah, magic and miracles are totally possible.
Oh, I love it. Magic and miracles. All right, guys, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to finish our conversation with the wonderful Kitty Waters. Your website is www.kittytalks.com. You can find her on Instagram at kitty_talks as well. Join the community. Look into her Transformational Leaders program and what her and her partner in the business are doing. And find your Dharma. Have the courage to step through that fear, and because there is, and Kitty knows that, there's so much opportunity on the other side of fear. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to jump in even deeper. We'll be right back.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
we rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals. But I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Alternative Talk 1150 is your sports organization's safe bet when it comes to airing your team's games. Our players are all seasoned professionals when it comes to sports programming. Imagine your games being heard on local radio. Your team deserves the MVP treatment. Call 425-653-1150 today to learn how affordable and fun it is to broadcast your games on the radio. Call 425-653-1150 and make your next season something special. That's 425-653-1150.
Hi, this is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I wanted to take a moment and let you know about a nonprofit organization called Give to Give. The Give to Give Foundation was created by a group of people who have studied my work or have participated in my workshops around the world. And by applying the principles of mind over matter and the mind-body connection, they've created outstanding changes in their lives or in their health, and they wanted to give back. The organization is dedicated to providing the proper resources to those people in need to gain the opportunity to learn exactly how to change their body or their lives. If you want to learn more about the Give to Give Foundation, or you know someone that needs help, or you simply want to make a donation, visit givetogive.com. Those who give don't always know how to love. Those who love always know how to give. Thank you.
Make us part of your daily routine. Alternative Talk 1150.
Oh, I love it. Benny, always the perfect song choice. Thank you.
Gotta talk that talk.
You. Totally. Oh, my goodness, you guys. Sue Lundquist here with the Gratitude Cafe. We are live from the Pacific Northwest, and we have the beautiful Kitty Waters on the phone with us today. We're talking about following what is exciting to you, in the flow. What are you passionate about? Staying in alignment in that passion, that excitement, evolving and growing. But even more importantly, with that evolving and growing, consistently staying in that growth and feeling good about it and taking true responsibility and accountability for yourself, your life. And I say that out loud, you guys. Say that out loud if you're in the car. And it's your time to take responsibility. It's your time to take your power back. And we are teaching you and talking to you, myself and others like us, helping you to reclaim yourself and to give you that hope. Because I know when I see people, and Kitty was talking about this at the top of the hour, how powerful it is to be able to facilitate this type of healing for people and to see them reclaim their hope and to reclaim that love and that passion and that excitement. And what's coming up for me, Kitty, is that I've had a couple clients, and one in particular, she said, "Oh my God, Sue, it's been in me this whole time. It has been in me this whole time." And I think that's so powerful for the audience to hear, because it is in you, and it is absolutely in you this whole time. We're just going to help bring that out and to help you reclaim that power with the tools and the communication that we've got. Now, before we went on break, we were going to talk about gratitude. And I just want you to tap in on gratitude, and then let's give them some juicy tools. You've offered a very generous Dharma cheat sheet that's going to be going out with the radio show. And we're going to talk about that, but let's talk about your definition of gratitude and jump in from there.
Well, gratitude to me is a spiritual practice in itself. It's probably the single most thing I use to shift my anxiety and depression. Gratitude is such a high level emotional vibrational state, like it's up there with happiness and spiritual connection. So it puts you in a very expansive energy. So if you think about humans, we oscillate, we go up and down, one day we can be sad, one day we can be happy. But actually, when we are in a state of gratitude, we are in a very high level emotional vibrational state, a very expansive state. And, we feel amazing. And gratitude is something that I use in my life, both morning and evening. And whenever I have a breakdown, it's the first tool that I go to kind of go, hold on, woman, get a reality check on yourself. Stop telling yourself ridiculous stories. How lucky are you? And I just think it's one of the most powerful things that if people can embed it into their lives, it will totally shift and transform your life.
Absolutely. And I think the important message here, yes, gratitude is it's one of my foundation pieces, but yes, it is a higher vibration, and it's not the Pollyanna stuff. It's not, sitting on a mountaintop with your legs crossed. It's truly recognizing and being in awareness of, my stuff's coming up. All right, let's take a look at that and let that go. And you know what? Really, truly be thankful I've got a roof over my head. I'm doing something that excites me, whatever that is, but truly getting to the truth of what you're grateful for, so it can raise the vibration and keep you above the line. I think that's so important. And I love that you use that for your anxiety. And I do that too. I absolutely do that. I can remember a time where my fear and anxiety I was driving in a car in an overpass, and this is my memory for me. And I had so much anxiety. I felt like I was going to go off the overpass, and that was just not a reality. So I had to, but when you're spinning out in that, you have to find a tool. And my tool was gratitude and love and a complete surrender and trust too. So let's go into Dharma cheat sheet. I'd love for you to educate the audience on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think obviously hopefully you guys will be able to have a look at it and see it. But how do we stay in this flow of life? That's the question, right? Because we have bumps, we hit, things are going to happen that we don't necessarily prefer. So it's how do you stay feeling aligned, feeling connected? The simplest principle I teach is to always be following what is exciting to you. I call it your highest excitement. Again, excitement is a very high emotional, vibrational state. And it's almost like, for me, your excitement is your compass. So if we change the way we look at things, if we've talked already on this radio show about how we get disconnected when we're out of the flow of alignment with Dharma, we start to get resistance in our body. If we start to look at things slightly differently, so we look at the things that cause us joy is almost like in a sat nav saying, go this direction, go this direction, go this direction. And then when we get out of that flow of joy, usually there's some type of resistance or there's something happening. So it's important that we recognize when we may be telling ourselves a story about a situation, because our mind is very good at taking us out of the flow of Dharma. So the cheat sheet I've put together is a really, really simple way of seeing where you're at and seeing what you need to do to change how you're feeling. Now, there's certain things that take you into the flow of life, and there are certain things that take you out of the flow of life. So as we've talked about, if you're focusing on what you're grateful for, if you're focusing on the stuff that's amazing in your life, you're going to feel good. Now, what we focus on expands. If you're focusing like I used to when I was depressed, I was always focusing on what was wrong with me. I was constantly beating myself up. I was focusing on what was wrong with my life, the fact I was single, the fact that I didn't necessarily look the way I wanted to look, the fact that I wasn't, living where I wanted to live. Woe is me, literally. And of course, what you focus on expands. And so when we focus on those negative things, it takes us out of that flow of life. So this little cheat sheet I put together is a really simple way for people to look at what's happening in their life and maybe look at what they're experiencing. So the other thing that the Vedas talk about is, and I think it's in lots of ancient texts, is about how attachment can cause suffering.
Oh, yes.
And we all do it. We get attached to a certain outcome. We get attached to something happening. And actually, the real gift in life is when we can just be with whatever is happening in our life. So when we can observe our lives rather than trying to control them, and we can go with the flow of them and trust that whatever's happening is for our highest good, then we don't suffer with this attachment, which will cause us to suffer when it doesn't necessarily go our way. So that's another top tip for people listening. If you are finding yourself, in a bad place, maybe you're feeling anxious, or maybe you're feeling down, or something hasn't gone your way, can you observe it? Can you look at it? And can you trust that actually the right thing is happening? So I want to give you an example of this, because I think examples are very, very powerful.
Very. Thank you, love.
So my husband and I have a beautiful house in England, and we have a barn, and we have 2 barns in the garden, and both of them were derelict. And we put in a planning application to turn them into little cottages so we could rent out the little cottages. Now, yeah. Well, we weren't sure, what was going to happen, but we thought we'd put a planning application in. We told all our neighbours what we were going to do, and we thought they were on our side. And anyway, very long story short, when the planning application was put in, all of our neighbours complained and said, no, we don't want it. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I could get really stressed and frustrated about this, but actually I'm just going to trust that whatever's supposed to happen will happen. And so we got planning permission for 1, so we have converted 1. And what has unfolded, which is beautiful, is that actually, rather than having 2 residential properties in our garden, we're probably going to have just some type of workshop space. And we're already getting asked to be putting on workshops.
I love it.
So rather than getting attached, this is the point of the story, is rather than getting attached to the outcome of what you think should happen, trust that life has a higher meaning and higher purpose. Now, I didn't see that coming. But if I'd have got all bent out of shape about my neighbours and to be honest, at the beginning I did, because I was like, oh my God, how dare they?
Yeah.
But the point is to have this trust, and it's to step back and observe life and not try and control it. And so what's naturally unfolded for us is that we have this beautiful property where we're going to start doing retreats, and it's just unfolded beautifully. And one thing I'd really like to tell your listeners is a myth that comes around purpose. Most people think that they're going to wake up one day and they're going to know why they're on the planet. And that is a huge misnomer. Your purpose unveils itself to you when you have the courage to take the action. So if you are listening to this and you have a beautiful idea, you know what you want to happen. Maybe you have a vision, maybe you have a community you want to set up, maybe you have a non-profit, something amazing, but you don't know how it's going to happen. I'm here to tell you that is absolutely fine. Your job in life is to know what you want, not how it's going to unfold. So,
do you guys hear that? It's what you want, not how it's going to unfold. That's really important, because just like she was talking about earlier, it's that attachment, that control to the outcome. You can have that unveiling and be super passionate and excited how you teach people to stay excited. Then within the journey is how you are learning. I wanted to make sure the audience got that.
Absolutely. So the example that I gave, that I knew I wanted to set up this organization, I had no idea how it would happen. Literally no idea how it would happen. And of course, the universe will take care of those things for us.
Yep.
But what happens with most people is they think, oh, I've got this idea and I really want to do it, but I don't think I'm good enough, so I'm not even going to start. Now, clarity comes through engagement. You won't know how it's going to unfold. You won't know how it's going to happen. Your job is to put one foot in front of the other towards the direction you want to go. And I've seen time and time again in my Dharma community, they will create the vision for their life. And then through our mastery community, they take daily, weekly, monthly action towards the vision of their life. And of course, when you get to the next step, it becomes obvious what you have to do. But it's only when you reach the point of the next step that does the doors open and you have the clarity.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I just want to tell people, because I know that all of us have dreams and all of us tend to talk ourselves out of stuff and don't take the action and think we're not good enough and think that we can't do it and it's just us. And actually, I'm here to tell you that all of us can do this. This is our purpose, our Dharma, our higher meaning in life. If you have an idea like that, you can totally make it come to fruition, but you do have to start.
Oh, you do. There's so much opportunity on that other side of fear. There's so much. And I don't remember who I heard this from, but your brain does not know the difference between excitement and it's not fear. Is it fear? Or, it's like that stage fright and excitement. So if you are getting ready, do you remember that story?
Yeah, excitement. Well, the way I describe it is fear is just excitement with a negative belief attached.
Yes. Brilliant. I love it. And that's true.
Absolutely. And if you can look at your fear and you can look at it and you can say, well, what is it, the worst that you think that's going to happen? And you actually get it out on the table and you look at it and you can usually
real?
Yeah, exactly. You usually find it's not real. And actually it's, it's just a belief that you have that isn't necessarily correct. And then you can clear out that belief and off you go again.
Off you go, and keep clearing it, because it's going to keep coming up, because it's your nervous system, right? It Absolutely. Is your nervous system going, no, that scared me before. It's going to keep scaring me. And then in that moment, you have a choice to stand in awareness and stand in your power and say, you know what? Thank you, nervous system. I love you. I got it this time. We're moving forward. I may not know what that looks like, but I'm trusting and we're moving forward. I love that. Have the courage, my beautiful audience. Okay, I'm going to remind all of you who we're talking to. And quite honestly, it's to give you love and joy and to help you stay connected and to get on the right path, following your inner guidance. And I want the audience to know you have the power to turn it all around. Kitty Waters said that at the beginning of the hour, at the top of the hour, and you do have the power to turn all of this around. She has the tools. She's got the community. I want to give you her website, and it's doyourdharma.co.uk. I will list all of this on Facebook, so if you're driving, and of course I will update all of this for the website and the newsletter. There will also be the cheat sheet, the Dharma cheat sheet that I'm going to include with the radio show, and Kitty's so graciously offered that to you guys. So listen to the radio show and then print out the cheat sheet. It's extensive. I mean, I'm reading it and I'm loving it. Fear. Ask yourself if it's real. Clarity comes through engagement, action to the vision, taking action. If you have, like Kitty was talking about, if you have a vision, be consistent on your action, and that is going to give you that purpose and that power that you've always felt, and that excitement, because Kitty's talking about, and you call it your highest excitement. That's like your compass, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's like your inner sat nav.
Oh,
we've all got it. We've all got it, but we're not taught to use it.
Yes, and in that process, audience, all my lovely ones, in that process of action is where all of the unveiling is going to be coming in your journey. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that? Because people get so spun out and what's my purpose and I've got to be doing this, and that's contracted. That's attachment to the outcome. And first you have the clarity of your idea, like you were talking about. Clarity comes through engagement, and then getting engaged, and then going into your journey and talking to people and taking action and getting clear on that. And then within that, engagement becomes your actual journey
and
of expansion.
Evolves. And it evolves as you go through,
Oh my God. Yeah, at one point you're like, okay, great. Oh, nope, here it comes again. And it's ever evolving. Things just keep happening and evolving, and it is magical, and it is you expanding. And I think you said magic and miracles at the top of the hour. And I love that you use the language, your highest excitement is your compass. I believe in what you're doing, Kitty, and I think that we're quite in alignment in what we're doing. We're just using different languages.
Different language, yeah.
And I love it, and I absolutely believe in the work that you're doing, and I want the audience to take advantage of working with you if they can. So doyourdharma.co.uk. And clarity does come through engagement, you guys. Action to your vision, and ask yourself, is that fear really real? We've got about 3 more minutes. What's coming up for you? Is there anything that you'd like to chit chat about, Kitty, or educate?
I just think, it's so much fun when we do these things together, and that's why I created the Dharma community. And, I've got 80 people actively doing their Dharma together. So what's so wonderful about that is they all jump in the Facebook group and they're kind of giving an update of what's happening, and this synchronicity happened or this happened, or, maybe they've had an off day and they come in and they just, connect with their community. And it's just fantastic to watch everybody's journeys unfolding. I've got one guy who was told when he was young he couldn't be an artist. It wasn't a career. Don't be so ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. 20 years later, after a big relationship breakdown, he picked up a paintbrush again, and it felt so amazing to him to paint. And very long story short, because I know we're nearly out of time, but he was in a job for 18 years. We manifested his redundancy, so he just walked out of there 6 months later with a big redundancy payout, and they're paying for him to do portrait artist courses as well.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And at our most recent retreat, we handed him a $1 million check and said, you're going to be $1 million portrait artist. And now, of course, he's referring to himself as $1 million portrait artist. So it's energetic, you know, he's claiming that. And so watch this space, but he's already manifested a bit of redundancy. He's now a full-time portrait artist. He's incredible. He's channeling when he's painting. He feels amazing. He feels alive. He's totally in his purpose. And, you know, I know that came through the support and the love and the connection and the belief changes that he's made through our community. So it's exciting to watch people's journeys unfold.
Oh, I love it. Do you guys hear that? Do you want your compass to be your highest excitement? I know I want that to be for you. I want you to be in alignment, and you can do that. You can get the tools. Follow your inner guidance. Go to doyourdharma.co.uk. Get in touch with Kitty. You can find her also on Instagram, and that is Kitty, Kitty _talks. And of course, at Kitty Waters. And I gave out the website. Make sure I got that. doyourdharma.co.uk. And thank you so much for coming on the Gratitude Cafe, and I'm excited to see where our relationship goes and how I can best support you, my love. Thank you so much, and to the rest of the audience, we'll see you next week. And until then, each of you are a gift. Get out there and share yourself with the world.
If you like the show, help more people find us by adding your review of the show on iTunes. The more reviews we get, the more people we can reach with this inspiring message on the Gratitude Cafe. Simply search for Gratitude Cafe in iTunes, hit subscribe, and add your honest review. It would help us immensely, and we'll be forever grateful. It's one of the best ways you can give back to the show with your review. Thanks for tuning in to the Gratitude Cafe. Don't forget, every week is a new show, and you could submit your questions at SueLundquist.com/Gratitude Cafe. The show goes live at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in Seattle on Seattle's Alternative Talk AM 1150. You can also call in to the show at 425-373-5527 or 888-298-5569. Find the live streaming link at SueLundquist.com/Gratitude Cafe. We'll see you next week. The preceding audio was via a Skype call.
The views expressed on this program